Hey, what's up, my YouTube friends? Welcome to my review of this knife. I got this on sale. It was only $30. Quite excited at that price. The seller's name was eJoy. I will include a link below the video for however long that lasts. That is me waving to you. Yes, what's up? What's up, my people? I took this out to the creek to test it out. So this has a 5-inch blade length. The steel is 1066 carbon steel. It is a true full tang. You can see it all the way around. Partial hollow grind, mirror polish. Cutting stuff with the knife. I cut a variety of materials with this. That is some seatbelt type material. It did really well on that. Here I am putting a notch on a stick. So I hope you all enjoy the background there. The beauty of nature. I had a lot of fun that afternoon. Not only did I test out literally like 7 different knives, but I also did some shooting with some air guns. Those are my shooting gloves. So there is my notch that I made, some bushcraft practice. Here I am drawing it down, that same piece of wood. This is for if you need to make a piece of wood thinner. For any reason, you can draw it down the piece of wood. Alright, I got some shavings which I use to start fires and my fire steel. I tested out the spine of the knife, whether it could be used as a striker. It is very sharp and it makes some nice sparks on my fire steel. That's always a good feature of a bushcraft knife, and you can use a sharp spine to make bark scrapings as well. Right, I also tested out my homemade stove. Right, that is called a hobo stove. Light it up, yes. Now there are many videos on how to make one of those. I added some fuel to make the fire burn hotter, and basically I use that to boil water, and then I make coffee or make tea on the trail. Here's the sheath. The sheath has 2 loops. One is a dangler loop and one is just a regular loop. So I'm using the higher carry loop. Okay, here it is being used to cut meat, right? You can use this as a butcher knife or as a field butchering knife. Let's say that you hunted an animal, you want to prepare some game, or maybe you just brought some meat with you and you're having a nice camp cookout. Right, so those are some pork chops. So that's the boneless part of the pork chop, right? Boneless pork chops. I cut those ribs with another knife. I was testing several knives that day. But this does really well at cutting meat, no doubt. You know, if you had to cut up process some game out in the field, this would do really well. Yeah, so it's a butcher knife too. Now when I first got the knife, I did the old paper test for initial sharpness. So here's that footage. The knife came impressively sharp, especially for an inexpensive knife. There's a close-up of the edge in the grind for you. They did a good job on the edge, definitely. There's a piece of birch there. Now, if you want to take a piece of birch and turn it into 2 thinner pieces of birch, you can utilize this knife to do so. A little light batoning. Of course, I could do the exact same thing with my hatchet or with any of my tomahawks. Just lay the wood flat and chop into it. As the pieces of wood get thinner and thinner, it just becomes more convenient to use a knife to precisely split them further, and it's also just safer. You know, I have an Estwing hatchet and I love it, but it weighs about 2 pounds. So if I can accomplish a little light splitting with a knife that weighs a lot less, that's just 2 less pounds I gotta carry. Of course, this is birch. This is not especially hard wood or anything. Look, I don't advocate abuse of the knife, but this is an easy task for the knife. Alright, so if you want to split some pieces of wood into thinner pieces for whatever reason, kindling sticks or things to carve, this knife will definitely be good for that. Final thoughts on this knife. I think I got a great deal for $30. Now, if you're wondering why is it so inexpensive, Well, if you look at the hardware on the handle scales, it's not flush with the scales, so there's like little depressions there. Okay, so the scales are a bit rough, basically. Some dirt and mud could get into those depressions, but there's so many ways to fix that. I mean, you could swap out the hardware, you could remove the scales and put heat shrunk paracord in place of the scales. You could just put a simple grip wrap around the handle. You could remove the scales and make your own scales. I mean, there's so many ways to customize scales that, that doesn't deter me at all. What you need to know about this is that the steel is good, the grind is good, and the edge was well done. So as far as I'm concerned, the knife is good. And those handle scales, they're a little rough, but you can customize those in whatever way you see fit. So overall, I feel like I got a very good deal. I'm pleased with this knife. It can do everything you would need in a camp knife or a bushcraft knife. So I do highly recommend it. There's only one seller that has this knife. This thing is going to disappear, so I would recommend picking one up if you need a budget bushcraft fixed blade. Yeah, I would highly recommend this. Now underneath the video I'll include the link to this if you are in North America. If you're outside North America, you can try looking up eJoy, which is the name of the seller. I don't know if they sell in other venues as well. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you like videos like this. This has been We All Juggle Knives. I'm out.